Welcome to How To with NADTC, where we tackle your big challenges in small doses. On today's episode, we're going to hear from Harmony Lloyd on how to develop and maintain partnerships so that you can have a sustainable transportation program. Harmony Lloyd is the Chief Operating Officer of Planning, Innovation, and External Affairs at the Mass Transportation Authority in Flint, Michigan. We are excited to have Harmony join our series. Welcome, Harmony.
Hello, my name is Harmony Lloyd, and I am from the Flint Mass Transportation Authority in Flint, Michigan. And I want to thank you for joining me today for a few minutes to talk about developing and maintaining partnerships to improve transportation in your community. We only have a short time, so let's get going. I am going to focus this conversation on our experience in Flint as we started a new program back in 2016 called Rides to Wellness. Rides to Wellness is a health and wellness initiative that we like to say took the best of public transportation and combined it with all of the great things that ride-hailing services offer and created a program that really responded to the needs of the people in our community. But when we started this program, no one had been doing this type of work in our area. And so we really relied on information from stakeholders and community partners to design the program. To show how well it has worked before we get into the hows and the whys, I can share with you that since 2016, when we started our first month, we had 3 vehicles, 5 drivers, and we did 169 trips in the first month. And we were pretty proud of that. Now we currently have 95 vehicles, 120 drivers, and we're doing about 13,000 trips a month. So you can see that Rides to Wellness has been incredibly popular in our community and has taken off, and it is a sustainable program, which means our partners assist in paying for the program. And that's what I want to focus on today. So as you listen to the things that I'm about to share, I'd like you to think about how this could be relevant in your community. And maybe it's not a Rides to Wellness sort of program, but it addresses some other transportation issue that you're facing. So you start by 5 questions that you need to answer internally with your team, your staff, and potentially some other people in the community. The first one is, what is the issue we're trying to solve? The second one is, who is affected by the issue and why? The third is, how would those that are being affected by this issue benefit from partnering with your organization? The fourth is, what resources can each party bring to the table? And the fifth is, when is it not going to work? When is it time to move on from that specific partner and focus your energy on another one? So getting into the first question, what is it we're trying to solve? That's going to be different in each community, but you're going to likely hear certain themes, and it always starts with transportation as a barrier. We've all heard that statement. Dig into what that means exactly. Does it mean that hospitals are having difficulty discharging their patients and being able to turn their beds over? Does it mean that the aging population and people with disabilities are having a hard time getting to their medical appointments and are missing them? Does it mean that patients are missing their appointments that often occur several times in a week? Appointments like chemotherapy and dialysis. What problem are you trying to solve? And that will help guide you to the next question you need to ask yourself, which is, who is affected by this issue? And as you can see, it's never just the passenger or the rider or the transit agency that's affected by an issue. It's often the hospitals, it's the medical community, it's the general health and welfare of your entire community. It can also be organizations that are trying to serve clients that have specific needs, and they can't get those clients there. They can't deliver their programs if they don't have any clients there. So you want to think in the terms of the people you are going to reach out to, the organizations and stakeholders that you're going to reach out to, and think, how will this affect them? And so that leads you into thinking about how would these organizations benefit from being your partner. The truth of it is everybody is looking at a new program, a new challenge as how is this going to benefit us? And you need to be ready to make that case to your partners or potential partners to talk about whatever your proposed solution is and how that will make their life easier. An example is a hospital. If you can partner with a hospital and they have the ability to discharge a patient and pay you a rate, here in Flint, it's $15 for a one-way trip, more than a bus fare would be, but it's a door-to-door service. They have an online portal at the hospital. Any discharged nurse or employee can call up a ride on their online portal. It's dispatched immediately, and that patient is taken home. And that hospital is free to move on to doing other things that they need to do and to not losing money because they have a patient taking up a bed that could be used for someone else. Another example is patients aren't going to miss treatments. If a patient misses a dialysis treatment, they suffer, but also that organization or that dialysis clinic suffers because they have missed out the opportunity to provide service to that patient. So if you can get them to their appointment, you're helping both the patient and the organization that's providing the service. And going back to clients and nonprofit organizations, things that maybe even aren't medical related, if you're able to get those clients to their programs, those nonprofits, those other organizations will continue to receive funding because they can prove that they are providing the service that they received a grant or some sort of funding to do. So it is a win-win for everyone that's involved. But it's key as you think about this and as you have these conversations to be upfront about it. These services aren't free, and we all know that everyone needs to buy in to make it work. We've had conversations initially back in the early days where we would have organizations that would agree and would be shaking their head at everything that we were saying about the issues that people were facing and the issues the organization was facing, but they still did not view transportation as their problem. They viewed it as the passenger's problem or the transit agency's problem. That thinking has to change, and you change that by talking about what can everyone bring to the table. The biggest one, of course, is funding. Everybody needs to put in, and you need to be able to make a financial case of why they want to put in. Going back to the example I used earlier, if a hospital can make an investment of $15 as opposed to the maybe thousands of dollars that they would lose by having a patient stay longer than they needed to and not being able to turn that bed over, you've made a financial case, and you can ask them to invest that $15 in your program. In addition to funding, there's other things. What about staffing? You want to make sure that organizations realize that to run a program effectively, you need to have a contact person. Both sides need to have a point of contact that can address issues, that can improve the program, that can be in constant conversation about how you make that partnership work. Maybe it's time that they can offer. Projects don't happen overnight, and there are going to be a lot of meetings, planning, especially in the early days. So as you talk to partners, you really need to make sure they're committed to the idea of what you're presenting and that they are going to adequately be an active participant in creating the program. It is a relationship, and just like any other relationship, both sides need to be able to give. Finally, another way that people can offer resources is physical space. Maybe you need an office and you don't want to expand your own offices because that would be expensive, but the hospital has space to allow you to put a transit person in their space. Maybe a nonprofit has room for you to put a mobility manager into a small office in their space. So be creative and think about the ways that you can help each other. Finally, the last question is, when is it time to move on? And I bring this up because sometimes partnerships just aren't going to work, and it's for a variety of reasons. Maybe an organization just is not ready to make that realization that they are part of the transportation equation, that transportation is a social determinant of health that we all need to invest in. And so you need to, look at the feedback you get, realize if you're getting the responses that you want, if people are being active participants in developing the partnership. And you may think it is the greatest idea in the world. You may know they have a transportation issue, but if they're not ready to get there, then you need to pull back and find another organization that does. And there are always other organizations that are ready to take that step. And as an example, with Rides to Wellness, we started with 2 partners. And we now have over 30 partner organizations that are paying for that 13,000 trips a month that I referred to earlier. We have fundamentally changed the transportation landscape in Flint, Michigan, and we've been able to do it because we worked with the partners in our community. We all brought resources to the table, and we all spent the time creating an amazing service. I hope this has been helpful, and I'm happy to answer questions if you'd like to reach out to me after you watch this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode of How To with NADTC. We hope you found this information valuable and practical in your journey in developing partnerships. Be sure to check out other episodes in this series for more helpful tips.